Welcome to the New Orleans Saints podcast, presented by Rouse's Markets. You'll hear from players, coaches, broadcasters, and writers that cover the NFL daily. The New Orleans Saints podcast starts right now. Here's your host, Erin Summers.
Welcome into the New Orleans Saints podcast. Erin Summers here. The Saints are back in New Orleans after a Week 7 game at Chicago. The team dropped that game 26-14 in one of their tougher games of the season. Turnovers became an issue, and the Bears had an easy time establishing that run game. Head coach Kellen Moore did also confirm Monday 2 injuries that occurred during the game, both season-ending.
Roster-wise, obviously we'll end up having a couple moving pieces here as a result of this, with Eric McCoy's bicep being done for the year and then Kendre's ACL being done for the year. So obviously really unfortunate because both those guys have felt like been playing some really good football, and they've been doing a lot of good things. And so opportunities for other guys moving forward. We'll have to navigate that and play with those different combinations and sort through that. But coming out of this game, tough loss because you had your chances. The game came down to turnovers in the run game. Those were 2 of the biggest factors in this game, and they did a better job than we did.
Tough news for both players. Running back Kendre Miller, who had racked up 193 yards so far on the season and a touchdown. And then center Eric McCoy. He's missed time the past 2 seasons with a groin and elbow injury, now out for the season. McCoy also a vital part of helping bring along a young offensive line.
Certainly he's one of our most impactful leaders on this team, and so other guys are going to have an opportunity to fill that void on the field. I think Eric still has that presence to all these guys. No matter what capacity he's in, he'll do everything he can to help, and think the world of him. He's been playing some phenomenal football, and so we'll have to navigate the roster as far as how that position ends up playing out. We have about 24 hours to kind of sort through that, and then we'll have to put a plan of action together and move forward with it.
For today's guest, I am joined by Seth Lewis, WWL-TV anchor and reporter, to help break down the Bears game, the injuries, and the next game up Sunday versus the Bucs. Seth, thank you so much for joining me on the New Orleans Saints podcast. It is great to have you. I was just saying I haven't had you on here before.
Yeah, no, as cool as we are, it is very cool to join you on this platform.
We are here talking after the Saints are back from Chicago, dropping that game to the Bears 26-14. There are a lot of moments that we can talk about here, but overall, what do you think that the keys were in that game that led to the loss for the Saints?
Well, first and foremost, it was the turnovers, right? I mean, Spencer Rattler coming into that game only had 1 turnover the whole season, and a part of what the fans that are behind Spencer Rattler, as well as some of the national media that talked about Spencer Rattler, so much of it was around how clean he was with the football. And because he's been so clean, the Saints were in every game outside of that Seattle game that kind of got out of hand really quickly. So to have a fumble loss, 3 interceptions, that was huge as far as even when the Saints scored on that final possession of the second quarter and then the first possession of the third quarter, still it always felt like there was a larger gap than what it was. And in part of it was because of, them not taking care of the football.
Rattler has this game where he starts off with the fumble, then he has an interception in each quarter thereafter, the second, third, and fourth. It does, like you said, seem like an outlier in what we've seen from him so far. Where do you go from here in handling the quarterback situation?
Well, I think that you can't make a rash decision off of one start per se. I mean, again, he's been so clean that I think that he's still earned the chance to be the starting quarterback. If the Saints decided to go in a different direction, I think that you could understand that after this week. But I believe that he's done enough as far as being clean with the football. We've seen improvements. We've seen these certain leaps, and he's certainly improved overall from what we saw as a rookie last year to him being a second-year player. He's certainly put in the work to improve some of the things that he wasn't as good at as a rookie. But you just see. And as the season progresses, you hope that things turn around. If they don't, then there probably is a point that Tyler Shuck steps in and is the quarterback, because this is the guy that you invested a second-round pick in. But I think for now, you stick with Spencer Rattler, especially with the best team as of right now in the NFC coming into the Dome this Sunday in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, that would be the Bucs. They play Monday night, so we're still waiting to see if they're coming in off of a loss or a win and their situation. Because we got to wait it out for the Monday Night Football game. Again, a short week against the opponent as we had with the Bears, but it seems like not only offensively with the turnovers, defensively the Saints did struggle in stopping the run. 222 rushing yards by the Bears. That's not a recipe for success when you pair it with the turnovers. What do the Saints have to do to be more effective in that regard?
Yeah, I mean, for one, it seems like they're also not being effective when it comes to like getting pressure, right? Mm-hmm. Like they only sacked Caleb Williams once. And in a lot of the games, no matter if like you talk about Seattle and the game getting away or some of the other contests, like the run defense has been improved from last year because it was so bad last year, right? That is certainly concerning to see the Bears getting that many rushing yards. And to be honest, the Bears just won in the trenches overall. You know, like you can point to those 222 rush yards. You can point to Caleb Williams only being sacked once. But then offensively, you could point to like Spencer Rattler was under pressure a lot. You know, like Spencer Rattler had 4 sacks in that game. And it doesn't get much better because like we believe that Erik McCoy is going to be out for a significant amount of time. And so that is concerning because when you lose that game in the trenches, especially the way that the conditions were in Chicago, it's cold, it's obviously the windy city, right? But those are the conditions, when weather isn't perfect, that you want your team inside that trench play to like really step up and to really like maybe like win you a game, will you a game. So to see that and to see how much more dominant the Bears trenches were than the Saints, that was disappointing. Yeah,
going into a game like that, you expect that the run game to be big because they thought it was going to be raining too the whole game. And then that changed as the day went on. It didn't rain after pretty much kick. But yeah, you're expecting them to really try to establish that run game. You wanted to, Saints unable to. You mentioned Erik McCoy's injury, another injury with running back Kendre Miller. He goes out early in the game, and you had that 1-2 punch that had been working so well between Alvin Kamara and Kendre Miller. It is not there anymore. And that definitely had an effect on the game. And it looks like it's going to be something the Saints are dealing with now for the foreseeable future.
And I feel bad for Kendre because he seemed like he was in such a good space. Like every time we got the chance to talk to him, he came into this season for the first time healthy, right? And we saw flashes. We saw flashes of what the Saints saw when they drafted him a few years ago. And he was effective with Alvin Kamara. And Alvin is someone, you know, sometimes when you talk about like a star skill player, a star running back, a star wide receiver, maybe they want all the touches, maybe they want all the shine. Alvin is the opposite of that. Like Alvin like embraced having a backfield mate similar to what he had with Mark Ingram, right? When the Saints were playing so well.
Yeah, so, he's mentioned Latavius Murray too.
Yeah. And I mean, like, and look, that first year he learned from Adrian Peterson, which is another crazy thought. But you know, Alvin certainly embraced that. So it's disappointing that Kendre goes out because, like I said, he had shown so much, and I hope a speedy recovery for him. When it comes to Devin Neal, the running back from Kansas, I liked him a lot in college. I mean, like there is no doubt that he was a big part of the reason why Kansas had a resurgence, let's call it, in football. Nobody thinks about football when they talk about Kansas, but Devin Neal was such a huge part of that. And obviously he's a rookie, so you have to temper expectations to a degree, but there was a play against the Bears where he came across on a pass block, you know, to allow Spencer to still be able to fire the ball downfield. And I think that it's stuff like that, like when you talk about like rookie running backs, sometimes those are the things that they struggle with first. It's not the, you know, being able to carry the ball. It's the other things. It's when you are not the option, what are you doing? And I thought that was a good sign of maybe what's to come with him. And we'll see how he develops, because I think that the Saints want to stick to that plan of like not giving Kamara too much, like allowing him to have some sort of backfield mate to kind of share the load.
That was an amazing block that he laid, and it just shows you his ability not only to carry the rock, but obviously to block. And I think that those plays that get coaches excited too. They're like, if you're going to come in here and do the dirty work, then that's going to help you find time on the field. Taysom Hill could be another option as well. He hasn't lined up like as a fullback yet this year. We've seen him do it in the past. So maybe that's something that we could see going forward.
Yeah, I mean, and look, Taysom's done everything. He's been running back, fullback, wide receiver, tight end. I think the only position that he hasn't played here at the facility is like head chef. You know what I mean? Like he's been a little bit everything.
I don't know. He's probably cooked for somebody back there.
Cooked. I mean, we've certainly seen him cook defenses in the past, right? So I think that's certainly an option. I mean, you look at last year before his injury, he had the most explosive run of the season.
Yeah, true.
I believe that came against the Browns, and so like. Yeah, he's certainly going to be a part of the solution in the backfield. And to be honest, because of the Saints' red zone struggles early on, I thought that him, as well as Foster Moreau coming back, were going to be huge additions to like maybe solving some of those problems. But Taysom obviously leading that way because of what he can do on the ground, because he's such a stronger athlete and whatnot. So yeah, I could certainly see him being a part of the solution. But this staff has done what I would think to be like a pretty good job of developing some of the rookies that they've drafted this year, and we've seen a lot of them in spurts, and all of them have shown flashes of good signs.
Yeah.
Like Quincy Riley, it kind of gets lost in the way that the Saints lost on Sunday, but like he had a really nice pick, in that game of Caleb Williams. And then, Jonas Sanker has shown really good signs. Kelvin Banks has shown really good signs. Devin Neal, obviously he's just getting started with the signs, but that block was a veteran block. That's not something you typically see from a rookie. And so, I think that Devin Neal will still get some of those carries, but I think that Taysom Hill can certainly help in the backfield.
Yeah, Quincy Riley getting thrown in earlier than he probably expected due to injury. Same with Jonas Sanker. Isaac Yiadom was able to come back and practice this week from that hamstring injury, but he was held out of the game against the Bears. Don't know how that's going to play out in the next week or so, or if they're going to lean towards Riley continuing to get the start there. But it's definitely something to watch because of the way that these rookies have stepped up in these opportunities. You look at people like Kool-Aid McKinstry, who is in his second year. He's gotten his first pick. And you can go down the line. This team is still fairly young. And there are players that are having a lot of firsts. Chris Olave had a first against the Bears. He had his first multi-touchdown game. So that was, I think, something that everybody has been waiting to see.
Yeah, and I think that Chris Olave has been waiting to see that, right? Like, he's been itching. I think he would tell you that, maybe in a couple of the games that he could have performed better. But, I mean, he looked really good. And honestly, the way that he played, especially on those two drives, was a part of the reason that for a second you were like, okay, the Saints are back in it.
Yeah.
And, look, Chris is a first-round pick. He's somebody that's been the Saints' number one wide receiver the last 2 years. It was good to see that, especially with there's going to be conversation around this team, right? This team being 1-6, the trade deadline coming up, like his name is going to come up in things. It was good to see him have a performance like that and kind of show whatever it is that he wants to show. That was certainly a good sign, his performance against the Bears.
In just 98 yards, again, he's just right underneath that 100-yard mark. It's like, we got to get him there. 2 touchdowns is huge. Somebody else that stood out to me as the game went on was Juwan Johnson, because he has had some untimely drops at times, and he did early in the game, but then he definitely answered with some big gains during that time where you thought, okay, the Saints are making some way here. They're going to come back. Momentum shifted between the touchdown to enter the half and the touchdown out of the half. They just couldn't quite keep it going as the game went on. But it was good to see Johnson have a bounce back in the second half of the game there, because I think we're still looking for maybe some more receivers. Seems like they're really trying to feed Chris Olave a lot, and I would like to see him mix it up a little bit more.
Yeah, and I mean, like, Juwan is a part of the big body solution, potentially, right?
Yeah,
Again, you need, we talked throughout camp about how much speed was on this team, right? Between Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, Brandon Cooks, even Mason Tipton, right? You need bigger targets on those 3rd and longs. The Saints have struggled in like anything beyond, like, I believe it's 3rd and 3. They've like been like maybe worst in the league in those numbers. You need bigger targets in that. That's where like a Devon Vele, you know, you're waiting to see him develop, obviously, after making that trade for him, and he's had certain moments. But yeah, so I thought it was good to see Juwan have some moments, especially because like Juwan got off to a good start to this year. And we've seen how Kellen Moore has used tight ends in the past. You can look at Goddard with the Eagles last year. I mean, Saints fans got to see it right up close and in full center in that 3rd game last year when he had that crossing route that essentially set up the Eagles for the win. And so, yeah, like I thought that was good to see him have success in the second half, because I think that Kellen Moore certainly has plans for him and for him to be a big part of this offense.
One moment that I wish would have actually upheld was when Taysom Hill threw the ball to Alvin Kamara, and then it was ruled a backwards pass. And it's like, well, that's the stuff that everyone's been asking for, like the trickery, the fun plays, the explosive plays, like, and it looked awesome. Like it worked, except for maybe the fact that it was maybe like an inch backwards, allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly. I mean, it was close. It almost looked like one of those calls where whatever it was on the field was going to be upheld. Like if you called it a forward pass, then it was going to be upheld as a forward pass. But if you called it a successful pass, then it was going to be upheld as a successful pass. But yeah, I mean, look, you see it in bits and pieces. It doesn't always work. It hasn't worked in several times, but it does seem like Kellen Moore is trying to pull just a little bit more out of the bag.
Yeah.
Like it's just a little bit more here and there. Like the Philly special obviously didn't work in Buffalo. But again, it's just trying to pull little things out of the bag, little spices, added to the offense. So yeah, it would have been nice to see that play stand, especially because if that play stands, then it makes that drive different, as well as, if they're able to go down and score, then it makes the complexion of the game a little bit different when Chicago gets the ball back. But yeah, it's good to see little wrinkles come out with Kellen Moore, because we've seen it in other places as far as him as a play caller, and it's nice to see it in bits and pieces with the Saints.
With where the Saints are right now, 1-6, going into their first NFC South game against the Bucs, like, what do you think their mindset is and the focus is? Because you're around the team. I feel like they still believe in each other. There's still good vibes in the locker room. They're still talking very highly of each other, of this coaching staff, of what they're building here.
I think the Saints players have a good understanding, especially I'm talking about like the veterans. They have a good understanding of like what it is this year. Like nobody, I know rebuild is a curse word, but like it is that. Like this is a younger roster than it's been in the past. Like they are developing guys. And so when you go into a divisional matchup, for one, you have familiarity. So that always makes those matchups tighter than maybe what necessarily the record may state. But also you're not looking at it like, okay, we need to go win a divisional game. We just need to win a game, right? If you're the Saints, like we just need to win a game. And so, yeah, I think that's how you approach it. And you approach it as in like, okay, Baker Mayfield's playing really good, right? But, if you're the defense, we know him. You know what I mean? Like we know what Mike Evans has to present. We know what some of those defensive guys have to present. So I think that's the biggest key, though, is it's not about winning a divisional game. It's about winning a game, continuing to get better. And if it comes against a divisional opponent, so be it. You're just the next one in line when it comes to the Bucs. So I think that's the goal now versus like in other years when you would enter that first divisional game and you're like, okay, this game essentially counts for 1.5 or 2 because it's a divisional opponent. You're not looking at it that way. Like the Saints are not in the divisional race. That's the truth of it. You're just worried about winning a game. And if you win a game against the best team in the NFC right now, and a team that certainly looks like a contender. Certainly, that's a good sign of some of the things that you're trying to develop if you're Kellen Moore.
Absolutely, and I think that it can definitely help with the confidence, and then maybe propel some momentum into the next game, because that one's going to be a difficult one too when you head to play the Los Angeles Rams.
Yeah, it's not. A lot of people talked about how tough the first 4 games are, right? And I mean that slate was obviously tough. This is a tough twofer. This is not an easy twofer. I mean, we just saw the Los Angeles Rams kick butt overseas, and so you talk about like a Matthew Stafford, who is a Super Bowl champion. You talk about Sean McVay, their head coach, Super Bowl champion. Like, they have that experience, and they have some really talented skill guys. They added Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua. It's not even playing in the game. Well, Devontae Adams just going to turn into Devontae Adams. So, yeah, these are going to be 2 really tough games, but look, moral victories are for minor league coaches. That's what Jay-Z said once. But if you're competitive, similar to how it was in Buffalo, right? Like, if it's competitive, if you're giving yourself a chance to win, that doesn't necessarily, like, you can't hold that at night, but it's something that you can continue to use to build on going forward.
It reinforces that you are doing the right things.
Yes.
Even though the result isn't exactly what you want it to be. And you got to put it together, whether it's offense, defense, offense, special teams. Like, you got to get 2 phases at least. Like, can we get there with 2 phases, like, locking in?
Complementary football. I mean, where is it? but yeah, it's just growing pains, though.
Yeah.
Like, I like that's the truth of it. It just feels like growing pains. That was the 2 words that I came away from the Patriots game with was, man, it just felt like growing pains. It felt like a young team making young mistakes, and like, it's kind of, you would love to just like have success, but like, if success was that easy, then everybody wouldn't want it. Like, you have to have some failure to get to success. Like, that's the only way sometimes that what success looks like, is that you've been at the bottom and now you've made your way to the top. And so, yeah, this team is just, it's gonna be, these aren't the last of the growing pains against the Bears, right? But you just want to see positive signs. You want to see, like you said, multiple units put it together for the Saints to have complementary football. And I think, and this team has to play near perfect, right? But you want to see some of that to know, okay, these are good signs as we move forward, not only through this year, but obviously in the years to come. Yeah.
Well, you threw out a rap lyric, so I'm going to go with sunny days wouldn't feel so special if it wasn't for rain. Ooh. In the words of 50 Cent.
Okay.
So yes, you got to get through some tough times, and that's why it does feel so good when things are good and you're winning on the other side. But yeah, we're building right now. I appreciate the time so much.
I appreciate you, Erin. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Breaking it down with me. I love it. And we'll get you on again soon.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Saints have an off day tomorrow, and then we'll be back at practice Wednesday through Friday as they get ready for the division opener against Tampa Bay. As always, thanks for listening, and stay tuned to NewOrleansSaints.com for all the news you need to know about your New Orleans Saints.
Thanks for listening to the New Orleans Saints podcast presented by Rouse's Markets. Join us 3 times per week on NewOrleansSaints.com, the Saints mobile app, or you can download the podcast on iTunes. We'll see you next time, right here on the New Orleans Saints podcast, presented by Rouse's Markets.